Welcome to Total Spectrum Spotlight, an informative look and an insightful discussion of today's legislative issues and political trends.
Hi, I'm Congressman Erik Paulsen, and welcome to this week's Total Spectrum Spotlight. We are thrilled to have joining us today Congressman Kevin Brady, who represents the 8th District in Congress and is also the lead Republican on the Ways and Means Committee, someone I served with for a long period of time. Kevin, thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Erik. Thanks for having me.
Well, look, there have been a lot of changes to the Build Back Better plan. It's passed the House. It's now over in the Senate. What is the impact, in your estimation, of some of the tax changes that we could expect to see if this bill becomes law?
I'm very worried about the tax hikes, $1.2 trillion in this bill, because it lands principally on businesses, both large and small. And it lands at a time where, frankly, we're trying to rebuild the economy from COVID, trying to rehire and reinvest into a healthy economy. And it targets both Main Street businesses with about $400 billion of tax hikes on our smaller businesses, and then the rest on companies, U.S. companies that compete, as you know, both here in the U.S. and around the world. The changes on the international front are concerning because they reverse some of the key Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that leapfrogged America to the most competitive economy in the world, brought back manufacturing jobs, research, investment, and intellectual property back to the United States. My view is international tax changes make us far less competitive, is in many ways almost an economic surrender to our competitors. And at the end of the day, for many of our companies, makes it better to be a foreign company or worker than an American one. And so I worry about that impact long term. We live in a competitive world, obviously. In the US, I want us, frankly, always being the most competitive actor on the globe. But it usually means more jobs and more opportunities back here at home.
You mentioned competition and the international tax provisions, which brings up the topic of trade. You're a big believer in having a robust trade agenda so we can sell American goods and services, which is obviously important to our economy. What's happening these days in terms of a trade agenda or the president's trade agenda? What's the landscape like?
So the short answer is right now, while every administration should have time to get their trade feet on the ground and develop their agenda. Right now, there is a frustration that it doesn't appear that America has an aggressive trade agenda, certainly not in opening up new markets around the world. America needs to lead on trade. And right now, our foreign competitors, whether it's China, Europe, Japan, or others, Canada and Mexico, frankly, are out there in the world creating new agreements that advantage their farmers, their businesses, and their workers over American ones. And so I think there's great opportunities here, Erik, from the standpoint of there was a record bipartisan vote for the new trade agreement with Mexico and Canada. Frankly, something I've never seen in all my years working together on trade. I was hoping, I think many others, that we would use that momentum to be out there in the world. I just met earlier with the Secretary of State for the UK. There is a very important trade agreement. Negotiations had already begun in the last administration. But right now, there doesn't seem to be a sense, whether it is with the UK, EU, a second more comprehensive agreement with Japan, or a phase 2 with China in an opening of the African market. At this point, at least, the administration has not either announced a strategy for opening new markets and has certainly not indicated their support for a new trade promotion authority, which would, as you know, with proper consultation with Congress and more public transparency, would allow the administration to negotiate on our behalf to open those markets, for customers, for American products and American services. So there is I think, a bipartisan frustration right now. What I am hopeful for is that at some point, the administration recognizes the importance for America to lead on opening those regions for as customers for our folks.
That makes sense, and hopefully we'll hear more about some leadership opportunities in that sector. Last week we had another disappointing jobs report that just came out. It kind of begs the question, where are the workers? How do we get these jobs back? How do we get these workers back on track with sort of the economy and the economic growth opportunities that we see?
Yeah, so it was 210,000 net new jobs, was far below expectations, and the problem we have is that 3-month rolling average of job growth continues to shrink and has almost since August. Yet inflation continues to grow. I think the average family now since May has lost about $377 a month in purchasing power. That's really tough on families, and we still have a very serious labor shortage. And so all these issues need to be addressed, I think, in a serious way. My view is that the Build Back Better plan won't help the president close his jobs deficit. He's about 1 million jobs short of what was promised in the $2 trillion American Rescue Plan in March. I don't think it will help him close it. In some ways, I think it will drive inflation higher and longer and make it tougher for us to find workers, because 2 provisions there actually erect new barriers, disincentives for Americans to reconnect to work. Unless that's done successfully, unless we saw some of that in the most recent jobs report, at least a step in the right direction, but without bringing back about 4 million workers that are on the sidelines, we won't see the strong economic recovery or the strong net wage increase that we had pre-COVID.
Great. This week we learned about the passing of Senator Bob Dole. Someone who's had a good reputation of getting things done as a legislator, much like the reputation that you've had in your tenure in Congress. And, do you have any reflections on his life or life of service, or did he ever have any experiences maybe interacting with him?
Yes. So thanks for asking, Erik. So he was exiting the Senate just as I was coming to Congress. So not much direct contact, but when he was here in Washington and on the issues he weighed in on, I just think there is not just a war hero. This is a Kansan, born of sturdy stock, who through just sheer will and intellect and a capacity to build consensus made huge differences in our country over a long period of time. Not many Americans, frankly, conclude their lifetime with such a legacy. Certainly in a Congress that can be difficult to find that consensus. Did it all with a remarkable sense of humor, and so what a decent man who fought big battles for the U.S., including personally, and I think left a remarkable legacy of effective Republican leadership. So while we mourn his passing, there's a lot to celebrate about Senator Dole and his life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know that he had such wonderful interactions with our veterans community and with the World War II Veterans Memorial. He would go down personally and interact with folks that were there. And a good special reminder about that value of public service, right? Which is
yeah,
cool.
And I'll tell you too, he your leadership and service in Congress, very much the same as his, the ability to have strong principles, but reach across the aisle in a very positive way to find that common ground. That was the hallmark of your time here in Congress, and it reminds me of Senator Dole's work as well. So you have a lot to be proud of as well, and we miss you, friend.
Well, you've got a lot to be proud of. I know you still have a lot of work left to do, even though you've made your announcement about not running again, but we certainly thank you for your leadership, and thank you especially for joining us at the Spotlight conversation today. We wish you the best and happy holidays and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you, Erik. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for watching Total Spectrum Spotlight. For more information about Total Spectrum, please visit us at totalspectrumsga.com. Total Spectrum, strategies uniquely focused on your success.